Hi there. Welcome to Reddit Confessions. You won't forget this one. There was lipstick on his neck. That's how I knew right there. Not the hands on her waist. Not the half-zip dress. Not even the way the music cut off mid-beat when the door opened. It was the lipstick. The exact same shade Dana used every day for work. That deep wine red she said made her feel like a CEO and a goddess at once. She kissed him right before I walked in. I know it. Everyone knows it. Except, of course, no one says a word. Because all they can do is stare at me, standing in the doorway of my own surprise party, holding a gift bag with socks inside, and realizing I'm the only one in the room who's actually surprised. The guy, tall, tanned, smug, turns to me like I'm the waiter who brought the wrong drinks. Dana freezes. Everyone else just keeps sipping wine like it's a dress rehearsal for disaster. I didn't even speak at first. I just stepped forward, set the gift bag down on the nearest table, right next to a slice of untouched cheesecake, and looked at her. Really looked. And she flinched. Good. Someone in the back, I think it was her cousin, tried to clap. One single, pathetic clap. It died in the air like a bug hitting a windshield. Wes? Dana finally said, reaching toward me. This isn't. But I raised my hand. Just one hand. Not high. Just enough. She stopped talking like someone had pressed mute. And I said, quietly, without a hint of emotion. So this is why the RSVP said +1. I wish I could say people gasped. That drink spilled. That the ceiling cracked open and karma came swinging through with a sword. But no. Everyone just stood there, anchored in place by guilt and disbelief, while Dana tried to remember how to breathe. I could see it in her face. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a routine. He wasn't some random guy. He knew her. He knew the house. He knew that I wasn't supposed to be there yet. Maybe not at all. And she wasn't shocked because she got caught. She was shocked because I showed up early. That's when something clicked in my brain. A small voice whispered, "You're not the husband here tonight. You're the inconvenience." So I did the only thing I could. I turned to the room, smiled like a guest who lost his invitation, and said, "All right then. Let's blow out the candles." Someone already blew the rest. And I walked straight out. No shouting. No rage. No goodbye. But as I shut the door behind me, I heard it. One voice. A woman's voice. She said, "You weren't supposed to tell him yet." And suddenly I knew. This betrayal wasn't just between two people. It was planned. When I stepped outside, the cool air felt like glass against my face. Sharp, clean, real. It was the only real thing that night. The world inside that house had bent around a lie so big, it could hold 20 smiling faces and still have room for dessert. I stood on the porch, blinking under the porch light, wondering if maybe I had hallucinated the whole thing. Maybe it was just a bad play, one where I'd walked in during the worst scene. But I heard that voice again, coming from the crack in the door I hadn't fully shut. "You weren't supposed to tell him yet." She didn't sound guilty. She sounded annoyed, like someone's brunch had been rescheduled. And the worst part? The voice didn't even belong to Dana. It was Brina, her best friend. The same Brina who texted me earlier that day, reminding me to be 15 minutes late. My legs went weak. My breath stalled halfway up my throat. I turned back, hand hovering over the doorknob, but I didn't open it. I just listened. "Wes was never going to be part of this," Brina said, her voice clearer now. "You told me he was working late tonight." And Dana replied, not in panic, not in tears, but like a businesswoman revising a schedule. "He swapped shifts. I didn't think he'd actually come." Come? To his own party. I stumbled down the steps and walked across the street, barely aware of where I was going. I sat in my car, engine off, hands shaking. The air inside was stifling, even with the windows cracked. My phone buzzed in my pocket, 5 times in a row. I didn't look. I didn't want to see her name. Not yet. Not after hearing her say my name like I was a calendar error. I stared at the dashboard. It had a small smudge on the left side of the display. Dana had wiped it earlier that week. I remembered because she used the inside of her sleeve, even though I told her we had wipes in the glove box. That smudge felt more real than our marriage now. I finally picked up the phone and opened my messages. Not from Dana. Not yet. From Mason, the guy whose house the party was in. The coworker she always said was too boring to be a threat. He wrote, "I didn't know. I swear to God, Wes, I didn't know what they planned. I just offered the house." They, plural. I zoomed in on that word, sat with it, rolled it around in my head. They had planned this. Together. Brina, Dana, whoever that man was in the polished shoes. This wasn't some spontaneous accident or unfortunate kiss. This was a machine. A timeline. A plan executed so smoothly that the only thing that ruined it was me. Me. Showing up. Too early. To a party I didn't even know I was invited to. And yet they were mad at me for breaking the script. I looked up from my screen, and that's when I noticed something strange. Across the street, just beyond the hedges near Mason's house, someone was standing. Not moving. Not smoking. Not on the phone. Just standing there in the dark, watching the house. My heart skipped. I squinted. It was a man. Not the one from inside. Older. Wearing a gray jacket with the collar pulled high. He turned slightly, and for a brief second, I saw his face catch the moonlight. And the look in his eyes? He knew. He knew something. He wasn't just a neighbor. He wasn't just a guest. He wasn't just there. He was waiting. Then, without a word, he turned and walked away down the side path, disappearing behind the hedges like a ghost slipping out of a photograph. I sat there stunned, completely still, because that was the moment I realized there were people at that party I didn't recognize. People who weren't invited for me. And someone, maybe more than one, had been keeping secrets long before tonight. I didn't drive home right away. I should have. Or maybe I shouldn't have gone at all. Maybe I should have gone to a hotel, a bar, anywhere with a lock and no memories inside. But when the adrenaline wore off and the cold started to bite through my jacket, something in me, that stubborn, pathetic part still hoping for a logical explanation, convinced me I needed to see our house. My house. My name's still on the mortgage. My socks still on the dryer. My toothbrush still damp from this morning. Maybe I thought I'd walk through the door and find evidence that this night wasn't real. That Dana had hallucinated her affair and I had just misread a really bad surprise party. So I went home. Alone. The driveway was dark, empty. Her car was still at the party, I guessed. Good. The quiet felt like armor. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside, instantly hit with the smell of cinnamon candles, her favorite scent. I used to find it comforting. Now it made my stomach tighten. Everything looked exactly as it had when I left earlier that afternoon, except now it felt haunted. Not by ghosts, by truths. The couch where we used to watch dumb shows. The throw blanket she insisted on folding just right. The bookshelf filled with novels she never read but posed with for Instagram. All of it screamed stability, devotion, domestic harmony, and all of it meant nothing now. I walked past the kitchen. Something was off. The fruit bowl was missing. I don't even like fruit, but Dana always kept it full for aesthetic. I found it later in the trash. Apples rotting, bananas blackened. Weird. I headed upstairs. I don't know why. Maybe to remind myself that something still belonged to me. Or maybe just to find the courage to cry without an audience. Our bedroom door was half closed. I pushed it open slowly, expecting silence. But I wasn't alone. There was a bag on the bed. Open. Half-packed. A suitcase I hadn't seen in months. The one she used for that girls' weekend back in April. There were clothes folded inside, a passport, and a white envelope on top with my name scrawled in her rushed handwriting. No. This wasn't just a betrayal. This wasn't just infidelity. This was an exit plan. With shaking fingers, I opened the envelope. There was a folded piece of lined paper and a receipt. The paper had 6 words. I was going to tell you Monday. And the receipt? A flight confirmation. 1 ticket. To Costa Rica. Tomorrow morning. My knees hit the edge of the bed and I sat, staring at the paper like it could still change if I blinked hard enough. I looked at the departure time, 6:05 a.m. She wasn't just cheating. She was leaving. Completely. Disappearing into some tropical fantasy with polished shoes guy and not even giving me the decency of a conversation. I sat there for who knows how long. An hour? 2? I must have read that note 30 times, hoping I was missing something between the lines. But no. It was exactly what it looked like. A 6-word goodbye masked as a delay. Then I heard it. A knock at the door. Not a loud one. Just a soft, deliberate knock. 2 taps, a pause, then one more. Like a code. I froze. My hands instinctively crumpled the envelope, and my heart thudded like a warning drum in my chest. I stood up, walked downstairs, and peeked through the side window. There was a figure on the porch. Same gray jacket. Same man from the party. I opened the door an inch. He didn't move. "Wesley," he said. His voice was low, controlled, but not unfriendly. "You don't know me," he continued, "but I know what's going on." I stared, silent, too stunned to speak. He pulled something from his coat pocket, a flash drive, and held it out. "You need to see this. Not later. Now, before she gets back." I hesitated. "What is it?" He looked over his shoulder like someone might be watching, then back at me, eyes dead serious. "Proof. Of everything." I didn't want to take it from him. That flash drive. I didn't want to touch it. Not because I didn't believe him, I did. I believed him the second he said my name with that calm, surgical precision. He wasn't guessing. He wasn't speculating. He knew. And somehow that made it worse. Because whatever was on that drive, it wasn't going to make anything better. It wasn't going to reverse time or take the lipstick off his neck. It wasn't going to bring back the version of Dana I thought I knew. It was only going to bury her further beneath what was already starting to rot. But I took it anyway. The man in the gray jacket, he didn't give me a name. Didn't offer any comfort. Just said, "You should watch it alone." And turned around like a man who delivered the final piece of a long, cursed puzzle. He disappeared into the dark like before. No sound, no trail, no explanation. Just gone. I locked the door behind me and stood in the foyer for a full minute before I moved. I knew exactly what I was about to do, and I hated myself for doing it. But I was done pretending. I walked into the den, opened the laptop Dana and I shared, and plugged in the flash drive. It loaded instantly. One folder, titled simply, June. I clicked. Inside were 5 video files. No labels, just dates. All from the past 2 weeks. The most recent was from 3 nights ago. I hovered my cursor over it. My hand was shaking so badly I had to steady it against the trackpad just to press play. The screen opened to a grainy recording, a hotel room. Cheap curtains. White sheets. Candle on the nightstand. 2 people walked into frame. Dana. And the man from the party. Only now I had a name. Because he said it as he kissed her neck. "Say it again, Lex." Lex. Short for Alexander. The coworker from her firm's marketing team. The one she always described as completely harmless and totally gay. The one I once gave a ride home during a thunderstorm while he sat in the back seat texting her the whole way. Except there was nothing harmless now. Nothing platonic. I watched with my soul ripping in half as she laughed in a way I hadn't seen in months. She touched his face. She whispered things I couldn't hear. Things I had begged to hear for weeks. And then she said something that made me stop the video cold. "He still doesn't suspect a thing." I slammed the laptop shut. Couldn't breathe. I actually couldn't. My chest locked up like a car crash. I stumbled back from the table and sat on the floor, gasping, staring at the ceiling like maybe God would drop down a rope and yank me out of this dimension. But there was more. That was only one video. One from a folder called June. What about the rest? How far back did this go? How many months? How many people? How many lies dressed up as team dinners and late-night edits? I stood up. My fingers opened the laptop again before my brain could stop them. Next video. Different location. Dim bar. Cell phone footage. It panned across a booth in the corner, showing Dana with Lex. But they weren't alone. There were others. Brina. Mason. Even her boss. They were all laughing. Drinks clinking. Inside jokes. I raised the volume and leaned in. That's when I caught it. Brina was telling a story. Something about me trying to make creme brulee from scratch. Everyone roared with laughter. Dana added, "He tried so hard, too. Poor Wes. Always trying. Never quite being." My face flushed with heat. Not from rage. From shame. They'd been mocking me. Behind my back. In groups. At dinners I wasn't invited to. I wasn't just cheated on. I was the joke of their little club. The clueless husband who still believed in the version of his marriage that hadn't existed for a long, long time. I shut it again. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But something inside me went silent. That deeper part. The one that still hoped, still loved, still trusted. It just stopped making noise. Like a piano string snapping in the dark. Then my phone lit up. A text from Dana. "On my way home. We need to talk." No apology. No explanation. Not even a fake excuse. Just that flat, corporate-sounding text she might have sent to a client who had questions about a missing invoice. And that's when I decided. I wouldn't confront her. Not yet. I'd wait. I'd smile. I'd listen to everything she had to say. Every lie, every excuse, every shaky half-truth she fed herself to sleep at night. And then I'd tell her about the flash drive. After I showed it to someone else first. She walked through the front door like nothing had happened. That was the most jarring part. Not the fact that her makeup was smudged, or that she had swapped her heels for the beat-up sneakers she kept in her trunk. Not even that she smelled like that hotel soap I'd just seen on the nightstand in the video. It was the way she strolled in, like she had just come from yoga class. Calm. Light. Almost pleasant. "Wes?" she said softly, closing the door behind her. "I was hoping you'd still be up." I didn't answer right away. I sat in the den, pretending to scroll my phone, my heart thundering with each step she took closer. Her voice sounded careful, measured. I'd heard that tone before, when she was explaining to the neighbors why we skipped the block party, or when she gave her polite decline to family events she didn't feel like attending. It was her damage control voice, her corporate PR tone. And now it was aimed at me. She stepped into the doorway, her arms folded gently across her chest. "I owe you an explanation. I know that. But I need you to hear me out completely before saying anything. Okay?" She paused, waiting for some sign that I agreed. I gave her a small nod. Just enough. She took it as permission and sat on the armrest of the couch across from me, her eyes scanning the room like she was picking a spot to place the blame. "Tonight wasn't supposed to happen like that," she began, almost whispering. "It was a mistake. I never meant for you to see it. I never meant to hurt you. I swear, Wes." There it was. I never meant for you to see it. Not I never meant to do it. She wasn't sorry for what happened. She was sorry she got caught. "You weren't supposed to be at the party," she continued. "Brina and I had talked about it. We were trying to give you space. You've been so distant lately, and I didn't want to make things worse with pressure." I almost laughed. Space. I'd been sleeping in the same bed next to a woman who had already emotionally packed her bags. She stood up again, pacing now. "Look, I'm not going to lie to you anymore. Yes, I've been seeing someone, but it didn't mean what you think it meant. I was confused. Lost. You stopped talking to me the way you used to. You stopped caring." That was the part she landed on, my failure. Like she hadn't been the one who replaced affection with sarcasm, honesty with avoidance. Like I hadn't been begging her to tell me what was wrong for months. But I stayed quiet, because she hadn't even touched the suitcase yet. The one upstairs. Still open. Still packed. Still waiting. "I've been thinking about us a lot," she went on. "About what we're doing. Whether we're compatible anymore. I mean, we've changed, haven't we? People grow apart, Wes. That's not betrayal. That's life." She said it so softly, as if betrayal was just a natural evolution, like hair turning gray or paint peeling off old walls. And still, I said nothing. Then she tried the tears. The slow welling up, blink twice and it spills sort of tears. But it didn't hit. Not the way she probably rehearsed. Because I saw the timing, it was too perfect. Like a monologue. Like she'd practiced this in the mirror of that hotel room. "I'm not proud of how things happened," she whispered. But I want to fix this. If we can just talk. Maybe therapy. I'll cut ties with Lex. I'll stay. I won't get on that plane. That's when her eyes flicked to me. Sharp. Alert. She realized I hadn't reacted to that last part. She knew then. I already knew about the flight. I finally looked up, slow and steady, and said, "What plane?" She froze. Dana was many things, a liar, an actress, a skilled manipulator. But she was never good under pressure. Her eyes darted to the hallway, probably wondering if the suitcase was visible from here. It was just a backup plan," she stammered. "In case you kicked me out or something. I wasn't going to use it." I stood. She stepped back. "I found your note," I said calmly. 6 words. Not even a goodbye. Just a schedule. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. Then I took a slow step forward. "I also found the videos." She turned white, absolutely white, like the blood had been vacuumed out of her skull. Her hands dropped to her sides, and she looked like she might faint. Her mouth opened, then closed. Nothing came out. "I didn't," she started. "I didn't know how." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I just stared at her, really stared, as she shrank into herself, piece by piece. And then I said, "You weren't supposed to get caught yet. Isn't that what Brina said?" Dana's whole body tensed. The silence between us stretched like a wire about to snap. She stepped toward me suddenly, her voice now trembling. "Wes, please. I can explain everything. This isn't you. You don't have to do anything crazy." "I'm not doing anything crazy." I cut in, voice calm as ice. "But someone else is about to." She blinked. "What do you mean?" I picked up my phone, turned the screen toward her. It was a text. From someone she never expected to hear from again. Lex's wife. I held out my phone and watched Dana's eyes trace every word on the screen. She didn't blink. She didn't breathe. She read it 3 times, and each time her face lost another layer of composure. All the makeup, the performance, the carefully practiced lines, they slipped right off her like melting wax. The text from Lex's wife was short, brutal, surgical. "I saw everything. The videos, the calls, the business trip. I'm done protecting either of you." And below it, a screenshot of a post she was drafting. Not on Reddit. On Facebook. Public. Tagged. Dana Ellison. Alexander Reed. Status. Former friends. Former spouses. Current frauds. The caption said, "Just a little heads up to the rest of you. If your spouse is friends with either of these two, you might want to check your calendars and your bedsheets." I watched Dana slowly lower my phone and set it on the table like it was ticking. "I can fix this," she mumbled, mostly to herself. "I can call her. I can talk to her before she posts anything." I didn't move. I just stared. She started pacing, chewing her nails, mumbling numbers and names and possible ways to spin it all into a misunderstanding. She reached for her phone, opened her contacts, tapped and swiped like a machine running every emergency protocol at once. Her breathing got faster. Then she stopped. She turned back toward me and said, "Why didn't you warn me?" I blinked, stunned by the sheer absurdity of the question. "Warn you?" I repeated. "Yes," she snapped. "If you knew about Lex's wife, if you had the videos, if you knew everything, why did you let me walk in here and humiliate myself? Why didn't you just say something earlier?" It hit me then, the terrifying truth. She wasn't angry at what she did. She wasn't angry about being exposed. She was angry she didn't get to control the moment it all unraveled. Could have screamed. I could have thrown something. But I didn't. I was past the part of this story where rage made sense. Now it was just ash. I sat back down. She didn't. She stood there like a statue, twitching. "What are you going to do?" she asked finally, voice dry. I picked up the flash drive and held it between my fingers like a coin. For a second, I said nothing. Then, finally, I said, "Nothing." She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "You're lying." "No," I said. "I'm done. I'm not your audience anymore, Dana. I'm not your cleanup crew. I'm not the guy you drip-feed confessions to because it's more convenient than telling the truth. I'm out." She sat down hard on the couch, like her knees gave out. Wes, please, I made a mistake. I nodded slowly. No, you made many, and you didn't stop. Even when you had the chance. You just got lazy. That's why you're sorry. She didn't answer. The room was so quiet I could hear the fridge humming. Then came a knock at the door. A soft one. Different this time. Not angry. Not urgent. Almost gentle. Dana jumped. Who is that? I stood, slowly. She ran to the window, pulled back the curtain just enough to peek. And then she gasped. Actually gasped. I walked over and looked out. Standing at the bottom of our steps, dressed in a gray hoodie and jeans, holding a laptop in one hand and a small child's backpack in the other, was Lex. Behind him, in a car parked crooked on the curb, sat a woman. Lex's wife. And in the back seat, a little boy, maybe 5, fast asleep. Dana spun to face me, her voice ragged, whispering, "Why is he here? Why would he bring his family here?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The front door opened before I even reached it, because she had left it unlocked. Lex walked in first. Not timid. Not guilty. Just tired. He didn't look at Dana. He looked at me. "I'm not here to fight," he said. "I'm here because she made me come." He gestured toward the car. "And because you deserve the truth. All of it. Not just what she let you see." Dana looked like she wanted to vanish. "Don't," she said to Lex. "Please don't do this here." But Lex ignored her. He stepped inside and handed me the laptop. I backed up every call, every chat, every deleted message. I figured, if I didn't give it to you now, I never would. I looked at the screen. The desktop wallpaper was a photo of Lex and his son at a lake. The irony stabbed. Then Lex turned to Dana. "I told you one of us would break eventually. Looks like it's me." He left. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't look back. And for the first time that night, Dana didn't chase after him. She sat down. Quiet. Still. I stood there holding the laptop. Heavy. Full of everything she never thought I'd see. But the worst part? I wasn't sure I even needed to open it anymore. I already knew. I didn't sleep that night. Dana fell asleep on the couch, or at least pretended to. I could hear her breathing slow, rhythmic, artificial. She probably thought staying within view made her seem remorseful. Human. But she hadn't looked me in the eyes since Lex left. And I didn't push her to. The house was quiet except for the occasional hum of the refrigerator and the creaks that made the walls feel older than they were. I sat at the kitchen table in the dark, Lex's laptop in front of me like a closed casket. The screen had gone black. My reflection stared back at me from the glass, hollow-eyed, tired, almost curious. I didn't want to open it. I didn't want to see more. But curiosity is cruel. It never knocks. It just sits next to you until you give in. So I opened it. No password. Just a desktop with one folder. Begin again. It was so on the nose it made me sick. I clicked it anyway. Inside were hundreds of files. Screenshots, voice memos, text threads, and a document named, "She told me this would happen." But I skipped over all of it and opened the emails first. Maybe I was hoping for a misunderstanding. Maybe I thought if I read the beginning, it would make everything else feel less like a train wreck and more like a slow drift off course. I was wrong. The oldest email between Dana and Lex was dated over 2 years ago. That's right, 2 years. Before she even told me she was emotionally exhausted. Before therapy. Before the half-hearted anniversary dinners. While I was planning a surprise weekend in the mountains to save our marriage, she was already writing him late at night from our bed. The first message? Simple. "I still think about that look you gave me in Denver. Can't believe how easy it is to imagine your life instead of mine." My stomach turned. Denver. That wasn't a business trip, it was a wedding. Her cousins. I didn't go. She said it would be too boring for you, trust me. And I believed her. I even helped her pack. I kept reading. Each email was a brick, a stone, a wrecking ball. They wrote poems to each other. Made plans. Joked about how oblivious I was. Dana once described me as sweet wallpaper. Easy to live with, easy to ignore. They called our marriage the waiting room. And every time she came home and kissed me, she had already been somewhere else in her mind, somewhere he'd built for her. There were attachments, too. Pictures. Screen recordings. One video of them lying in a hotel bed talking about how Lex's wife would never leave because she needs the security. Another clip of Dana laughing, holding a champagne glass, saying, "If Wes ever finds out, I'll just cry and say it was meaningless. That's his weakness, he believes apologies." I stopped. I actually slammed the laptop shut so hard it echoed. Couldn't breathe. I stood up and paced the room like a man in a cage, heart pounding, rage bubbling beneath layers of heartbreak. I had been betrayed in every way a person can be betrayed. But it wasn't the infidelity that cut the deepest. It was the strategy, the rehearsals, the manipulation, the sheer confidence she had that I would stay. And maybe I would have. Maybe if I'd only seen the party, if that had been the first time, I would have done the weak thing. I would have asked for therapy, begged for truth, compromised with a lie. But this was war, waged quietly, efficiently, under my roof and behind my back. With smiles, with gifts, with long nights of whispered, "I love you," that were never meant for me. At dawn I showered, got dressed, packed a small bag. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. I just needed space. Dana woke up as I zipped my bag shut. Her eyes met mine finally. They were puffy, hollow, but I saw no real fear in them. She thought I was just going to leave again. Like always, take a walk, cool off, come back. I didn't speak. I set the laptop in front of her, open this time with one email highlighted. The one where she described my laugh as adorably useless. She didn't look at me. She just stared at the screen. I grabbed my bag, headed for the door. And then she said, "If you walk out, you'll never hear my side." I turned, and for the first time in my life, I looked at her and felt nothing. Not anger, not grief, just exhaustion. "Dana," I said, "I've spent years hearing your side, and you spent 2 years making sure I never had one." She didn't move, didn't cry, didn't chase me. I walked out, closed the door gently, and didn't look back. But here's the part no one tells you. When you finally walk away, it's not over, because there's always one more truth hiding behind the rest. And I found it later that night, in my email inbox. I didn't cry on the drive. I didn't scream. I didn't even listen to music. I just drove. No destination, no plan, just me, a half-packed duffel bag, and the silence I had been too afraid to sit with for years. It wasn't peace, not yet. But it wasn't chaos either. It was something new. But peace has a funny way of delaying its arrival. Because just when I thought the worst was behind me, I got the email. I was parked at a rest stop overlooking the coast, sipping a gas station coffee and trying to remember what it felt like to breathe without thinking. My phone buzzed. No name, just a subject line that read, "He's not the first, and he wouldn't have been the last." I opened it, and what I saw wasn't from Lex. It wasn't from Brina or Dana. It was from someone I barely remembered, a woman named Kira, who used to work at Dana's firm. We'd met once, maybe twice, at some fundraiser. Dana called her a sad little intern with too much lip gloss. The email was long, thoughtful, painfully sincere. She apologized for not saying anything sooner. She said she had tried, but Dana had made sure she'd be discredited if she did. She attached screen recordings, chat logs, even an HR complaint that mysteriously vanished when it was first filed. But the key part? It wasn't about Lex. It was about someone else. From before him. A senior partner at Dana's old firm. Married. Higher up. Someone who transferred shortly after rumors began swirling. Dana had written in a message to Kira, "Men like Wes don't leave. They forgive. That's why I picked him." I read it 3 times and then I just let it go. I didn't reply, didn't forward it, didn't even download the files. For the first time, I realized I didn't need more proof to move forward. I already had what I needed. I had me. That night, I booked a room in a quiet coastal inn. Nothing fancy, just clean sheets and a window that faced the ocean. I called my brother, the one I hadn't spoken to in months because Dana didn't vibe with his wife. We talked for an hour, laughed about stupid childhood things. I told him I'd be coming by soon. The next morning, I deleted Dana's number. I didn't rage post. I didn't write some fiery viral takedown. I just started healing. And before you ask, no, we're not getting back together. There was no dramatic final confrontation, no car chase, no tearful kiss in the rain, just quiet, and the first real smile I'd felt in years. So here's where I leave you, Reddit confessions. If you've ever been the last to know, the one who loved hardest and got played the worst, I promise, there is something after the wreckage. It's called freedom, and it doesn't come in grand gestures. It comes in small choices, one after another. Thanks for walking through this story with me. Now it's your turn. What was the moment in your life that changed everything? Share your story in the comments. I'll be reading every one. And if you're new here, hit subscribe to Reddit Confessions, where the truth isn't always pretty, but it's always real. Stay strong.